welcome to Widow Too Soon. This is your host with the most, Mark Massaro.
Nice.
I'm here with my friend and co-host, Michelle Bader Ebersole. Hey, do you remember Arsenio Hall?
Yes.
I really wanted to hold that so long. Ebersole.
That's nice. I like that one.
So
That's
what's up
good.
with you? I know a lot
Oh
is
my
up with
goodness.
you. What's
So
going
much.
on?
So much. So we had our first Widow Goals retreat this past weekend. It was amazing. There were 20 widows from all over. We had, of course, Washington was like half of it. And then we had Idaho. Nope. Sorry, not Idaho. Well, we had a cook coming from
Iowa?
Idaho. Iowa. That's the I state I was thinking of. California and Montana. And so
Wow,
it
awesome.
was so amazing. And I want to take just a minute to tell everybody about it. Because it was such an amazing experience. There was something crazy bonding. Like, I've never been to a retreat where it's widows. Like, it was like overpowering to me, like in a good way. Like, whoa, we've all been widowed. Like, the most I've had is like 4 or 5 people. We do a little widow thing, but I've never been. Oh, side note, somebody said, I think it's so funny when Mark says, little widow, or widow, widow. You know that thing you say? Like
I don't
somebody was
remember.
telling me at the retreat, they were saying it's funny when he says widow, widow, or something. I was like, yes, it is.
Little
Anyways,
widow?
little
That's
widow, widow,
awesome.
widow. Anyways,
I that doesn't surprise me that I've said that, but I don't remember it right
I know
now.
it's funny when like other people remember the things that we said. Like, don't really remember that, but I'll trust you that I said that. Anyways, I'd been to a grief retreat, but it wasn't all widows. So to have 20 of us in one room knowing we'd all lost a husband, like it was just kind of a overpowering, like, whoa, I was almost overwhelmed the first night, like feeling everyone's pain. And like every single person there had a story, like a really tragic, hard story. And the first activity we did, it was not exactly the one I said we were going to do. We changed it up because it was too hard to glue things back together in a plate. So we did something totally different. And Joel helped me come up with it. And it was basically we took a flower pot. So the first activity, they register. They're all kind of quiet. They don't really know each other. And I say, take this flower pot and draw a picture of what your life was like before your spouse died. And it was like immediate tears because remember, these widows, some of them, one of them was like 3 weeks out.
Oh my
October
gosh.
1st, her husband passed
Wow.
away. And she was so brave to be there. And other widows, it had been like a couple months or, even a couple years. It's still fresh. So it was like very somber activity. Nobody was talking. And I wasn't trying to get them to engage because they were in the moment feeling the grief of that. And then later we came back to that activity the next day and we all had to drop the pots. Like we actually have a video that I'm going to get at some point where everybody dropped the pots at the same time. They broke into pieces and then they're in like a Ziploc bag and then they hand it to the group leader. And the group leader puts in these beautiful glass mosaic pieces and is acting as God and saying, I'm giving you more beauty in your life. I'm giving you different pieces. And then they take this little coaster. If you are watching a video, you can see it was a coaster. And they glue in, I'm pointing behind it, like the pieces along with the old pieces and then put grout in it. And it makes this beautiful
Like
artwork
mosaic?
because, yeah,
That's
mosaic.
cool.
Yeah, we had just talked about where is God in the brokenness, and I did this whole talk about like brokenness and how God makes something new out of our lives. And it was kind of a disaster. I'm not an art teacher. Joel helped me come up with this, and there was like grout everywhere, and someone's like, "You need
Oh
water. You
yeah.
need a sponge." Thankfully, there was a girl there who was like into art stuff, and she knew what to do. Kind of a disaster, but it turned out beautiful. So that was a super amazing thing that we did. But what I want to talk about was like that somber moment in the beginning to the very last event we did, which was line dancing. And it was
Nice.
so amazing to see the joy in their faces by the last
Mm.
day, which it was only 2 days. It's actually a day and a half. By the last day, they are praying over each other. They're crying with each other. They're laughing with each other. They're like hugging each other. It's like was so
That's
beautiful to watch
awesome.
these women from ages 29 to 77. That was our age
Wow.
range. Come together with this common thread of all being widowed and learning how to help each other. I mean, we cried as people shared their stories. We cried over each other. And it was that powerful, like, we wept together and then we laughed together. And it was I've
Wow.
never been to a retreat like this where the bonding was so instant. And then I did this other activity. You know, I've talked many times on the podcast about how I would, at my grief retreat, I asked God, like, where were you in this dark moment? And I found like the vision of Luke and going to heaven and that whole thing. So we did the same thing. I asked them to close their eyes and kind of led them through this thing, asked Jesus where he was in your darkest moment. And there were lots of tears. I just turned on music, had everybody close their eyes. And then the stories that came after that, like God showed them, like, God, you know, God was there through the paramedic, or, you know, just there were countless stories of, now I know God was there. He showed me in that vision where he was, you know, and he was there through this person. And so the stories were so beautiful after that.
That's
And then
awesome.
just, there were just so many things, but just that closeness. And at this point, we don't know if there's going to be another one. It depends on funding. It depends on a lot of things, but I would love to take part in it again, because it was so beautiful, like just seeing how people were changed. And then I wanted to read one testimony from somebody because it was so great. I mean, there's been like so many testimonies, but this one was a woman had text to me that I wanted to share, because it just kind of like wrapped up like what we talked about. She said, Michelle, thank you so much for inviting me to the grief retreat. My soul is refreshed and my heart is restored. I was so touched by the grief journeys the ladies bravely shared. So many are working their way through the hardest days of their lives, some of whom have endured such heart-wrenching tragedies. My heart was broken for them. I'm so glad they came, and I pray they too received healing. Thank you for the generosity. It felt like Christmas. God has given you an amazing ministry to bring his gifts of healing to so many broken hearts. Bless you, my friend.
Wow,
And
that's
there's
awesome.
just so many people telling me things like that, and just the joy that they felt with the line dancing. Actually, the last thing we closed with was we all danced in a circle and air guitar to Journey, Don't Stop Believing. And like everybody grabbed a water bottle as their microphone and we're dancing around the room like Don't Stop Believing. And it was just so amazing to see these women have joy on their faces.
That's
And I
awesome.
can't even like put it into words. So for me, and I could share all day, but this is the last thing I'll share. The biggest moment came in the most unexpected way for me. So it was our last worship service. We had to hire this amazing worship team, and there was this girl, just a beautiful voice singing, and the song was about make me a vessel. And all of a sudden it hit me like God brought me back to Luke's deathbed, and of course that made me cry. And then he said to me, this moment would not have happened if Luke hadn't died. None of these women would be here. None of
Wow.
these women would be here getting healing. And it just hit me so big. And so I was like bawling and shared this with everybody. And I said, and you're a vessel. Like God is going to make beauty out of your ashes too. We all have a story, and people are watching us, and we're going to be able to help so many people. But the intensity of that moment was so big. I can't even put it into words. Kind of like we've experienced about the podcast before, but I've never been in a room with all of these widows. I've been on podcasts, but to be in the room with 20 women who would not be there. And then I also said, and we wouldn't be here
Wow.
if Stacy's husbands hadn't died, because she was our retreat coordinator, did all the amazing details, and like was my partner in this. I'm like, it wouldn't have, if these people hadn't died, we would never choose that. But look what God is doing. And it was like the most powerful moment for me, just realizing that, yeah, I would have never chose this, but if Luke hadn't died, none of these women would be here getting healing. It was just a
Wow.
crazy moment for me. And I just felt also very humbled to have been chosen. So actually God brought me back to that vision of being chosen that we've shared many times, to be Luke's wife, which I shared with them, and a lot of them were crying about, like, I'm like, you're chosen. And he brought me back to that moment the day I was getting ready for the retreat, and he said, I chose you to lead this too. I chose you for this ministry. And I was like crying and just like humbled, like, why would you choose me? Like
Wow.
just that all these women were traveling from all over to come here to get healing, to get closer to God. And it was just a fabulous, amazing time. So I could
That's
talk all day
so
about it.
awesome. That's so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Is quite a great
Do you know how
experience.
hard it was for me to not sing Journey?
Don't stop. Yeah, I know. That was really, really hard for you.
Yeah,
And I got
I was
to,
like gluing my mouth together. I was
yes,
like,
and I got
don't
to
ruin
meet,
this moment.
yeah, because it was a serious one. Quite a few people there are podcast listeners, which was super cool just to see how our episodes are helping them and helping people everywhere. And then, of course, I had to talk about the podcast and send out the link to everybody. If you're not a listener, here it is. But I was just telling all the great things we talk about, and all that stuff. So anyways, that's a little bit about me. What about you? Run any races?
Like, seriously,
Russell
like,
Bears?
how am I supposed to follow that up? Like, okay, I actually did run a race.
You did? For real?
Yes, with Luke at his
Nice.
school.
Oh,
They do
yay.
this thing called Raccoon Romp, where they run laps.
Aw,
Their
cute.
school mascot is Rocky Raccoon. So they run laps, and for every lap, and then there's like they collect donations for people that will pay X amount of dollars per lap that they
Yes.
complete. So so I showed up at his school. I came straight from work, so I had all my dress clothes on. I had my Ferragamo loafers on, like what I mean. Like I was there to watch.
Yeah.
And to root him on and give him high fives as he crossed the finish line and whatnot. And he goes, "Daddy, will you run with me?"
Aw.
And I was like, "Yeah, of course, buddy. Are you sure I can do that?" And I look around, and there's all these moms and dads that are totally dressed to run. They got their running shoes on, and I'm like, "Sure." And so I felt like such a dork out there in my but not really. I mean, I'm there for my son, but
Right.
but oh my gosh! So we ran 9 laps,
Wow.
and this was 5 days ago, and my shins are still like when you get is that what shin
Like
splints?
shin splints? Those are
When it's
horrible.
like bruised on the front, it feels like that. Like the muscle's so sore on
Yes.
the front. So I've been hobbling around for the last few days.
That's funny.
So yes, I did run a race.
Good for you. Actually,
yeah,
I do
thanks.
remember seeing that on Instagram.
So not as cool as what you were just talking about, but it was
Yes.
cool.
Like you put a picture. I now remember that. A picture.
Yeah.
We were
On
gonna do
Instagram,
that.
I put it on Facebook. Oh, but when
Well,
you post on
I don't
Facebook,
have
it goes on
Facebook
Instagram.
anymore, so
That's right.
I know for everybody, I didn't delete you. I've still been suspended. I'm working on it every day. But
Well,
anyways,
you
I
shouldn't
thought
be talking all that trash on Facebook. Then you wouldn't get
Why?
suspended.
I didn't do anything.
I'm just kidding.
I was hacked, and I'm still
I
working
know.
on
I
it.
know. I'm just kidding.
All this stuff. But anyways, I saw it on Instagram, so maybe your Facebook and your Instagram are connected because
They
I know
are.
I didn't see it on.
I realized that after I said it because I was like, I never post to Instagram. But
No,
yeah.
no, I'm looking at Instagram more since I can't see Facebook, but I am able to, since with Joel's account, be on the Widow Too Soon page. So that's good. So there has been stuff. But anyways, I didn't mean to interrupt. Tell me more about
No,
you.
you're okay. You're okay. I was about to interrupt your super special moment and start singing Journey at the top of my lungs. So we'll call that even. But let's see. So something cool is coming up. So Tina has like a huge workload. She has a lot of responsibility at church, and she is responsible for, I want to say she said like 150 staff members,
Whoa.
like volunteers and things like that. So she's always getting texts about people canceling, that she has to fill in the holes and blah 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 blah. And so she actually gets to take a sabbatical, which is really great.
Nice.
So she's going to get like 2 months where she has significantly less responsibilities. So
awesome.
so it looks like we're going to get a chance to spend a lot more time together, which is
Yay.
amazing. So we're both super excited about that. And she just wants to really just get a lot of like refreshing stuff. You know what I mean? Like kind of get herself back centered and kind of she's had a busy workload for a long time, and so that's exciting. That's coming
That
up
is
very
exciting.
soon. Okay, so here's the big one.
Okay, excited.
So real estate has not
Yes.
been real good to me. I'm just kidding, but it's hard, right? So I've tried really hard. So I actually took a job as a mechanic.
Cool.
So I'm starting. They were really gracious with me. I had to be upfront with them and tell them, that I'm widowed and I'm raising these 2 little kids. I had to bring them with me to the interview because I was like, I asked him. I said, "Is it like?" Because the owner called me and said, "Hey, I've been thinking about you and ever since you dropped off the application, and could you come down tomorrow instead of Monday?" So it was like on Saturday, and I was like, I can and I would love to, but I have to tell you about my dilemma. I'm out here alone. I don't have anybody to watch my kids really. It would be very hard for me to like find somebody. So if it's not unprofessional to you, I would love to come down for an interview, and my kids will wait very patiently and they will be very well behaved in the lobby. And he's like, "That's not unprofessional. That's you being a dad." And so that
I
was
love
super
it.
cool. And so within
cool.
10 minutes, I got offered the job.
Nice.
And so I'm going to be a mechanic down the street, which is super cool. And I told him I had to figure some things out with childcare and get them enrolled in places. He said that's no problem. You do what you got to do, and we'll bring you aboard. But just call me and let me know when you're ready to start.
Nice.
So
That's exciting.
it'll be nice to like get a paycheck again. That's how I'm used to making money, is like you work, you get paid, you work, you get paid, but like that's not how real estate is. So now I'm a mechanic full time and doing real estate part time.
Awesome.
But I'm excited about that. So that'll be really cool.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. So I'm gonna be a grease monkey again. Which is
monkey.
always good. Yeah.
The funky monkey.
That was good. How did I not think of that one?
I thought you said that to set me up for the song.
No, I would have took that one if I
wait,
thought of
it's
it.
brass monkey.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you knew. That's rad.
Brass monkey.
Street lights, people. Sorry, I had to take it. It's been in my head ever since. I had to let that out.
Know.
Okay.
Sorry,
everybody. Right? Sorry, I just screamed in your ears. But I got to practice my 80s glam voice every now and then, to keep it finely tuned. Mm-hmm. So anyways, that's what's been up with me. I'm sure there's a couple other things here. I know there's something else I'm forgetting.
Well, you can always say
but
it just pops in your mind.
Yeah. I'll remember in like 40 minutes. I'm like, oh, that's what it was. No.
Yes.
Anyways, just good stuff. A lot of positive things and awesome stuff. I've had a lot of really great conversations with Tina lately. Not that we don't always have great conversations. I mean, everybody in a relationship knows that not everything is always perfect, but for the most part, we get along really, really well. But we've just had some really, really encouraging, awesome conversations lately.
That's good.
And so that's been fun. So anyways, I can't think of what the other thing was. I thought if I stalled, I might be able to think of it. So anyways, I'm going to segue into today's episode, which is a super special episode.
Yes.
We have a guest with us today. We have the super famous, everybody knows who he is.
Yes.
Joel Ebersole is with us today. What's up, Joel?
Hey guys.
How's it going, man?
Thanks for
How you doing?
having me on here. I'm doing really well. Thank
Awesome.
you.
He's my favorite guest ever.
Yeah. I can see why. I can understand it.
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
So I do have a question. So what kind of like mechanicking work are you going to be doing? Are you working on what?
Not as cool as you. It's cars.
No, cars are cool.
Cars are cool. Cars are cool, but I would much rather say I was an airplane mechanic. No, it's for a little shop down the street. Okay. And actually, it's pretty cool. I found out from my broker when I talked to my real estate broker about it. He knows the shop and he knows who the guy is, the owner, and he's oh, that's a great guy to work for. He owns a lot of locations, and he's I don't know if you know this or not, Mark, but he actually ran for governor of Tennessee and almost got it last time around.
Cool.
Really?
So yeah, he's really plugged in, knows a lot of people, and so I've heard he's just a really great guy to work for. So yeah, it's and it's not even like full scale mechanics. We're not doing like engine rebuilds or transmission teardowns or anything like that. It's brakes, suspension, alignments, stuff like that. I don't even think we really like diagnose problems or anything like that. I don't think we do anything like that either. But that's kind of good for me. I haven't worked on cars in 21 years as a living. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, I've done it here and there for friends a lot, but I haven't done it for a living in a very long time. So a nice, easy, I'm like, start me with oil changes. That's great. Brakes, stuff like that. So I'm really excited about it. But yeah, so it's going to be pretty cool. But so Michelle, what were we calling this episode? I forgot.
Well, it was.
I can't introduce it if I don't remember the name.
Well, the last one
or
we
you're
did
not sure
with
yet?
him. No, I think I know. The last one was called Dating a Widow. So I
Okay.
thought we would call this Married to a Widow.
Married to a Widow. So we just kind of, we wanted to catch up with Joel and Michelle, see what life is like now that they've been married for 7
and a half months.
7.5 months. No, come on, get real with me. 7 months, 14 days, 9 hours, 3 minutes.
Well, it is
Yes,
the
it's about that.
wait.
33,
No, 7 months and 12 days.
7 months and 12. Oh, that's pretty close. So anyways, so just, I guess we'll just start off with how are things going? Whoever wants to answer first.
Amazing.
Nice.
Yes, it is very, very nice to being married and then being back in the season of singleness and then getting married a second time for both of us, it just makes you appreciate each other even more, because you know what it is to not have that person in your life and to be by yourself after you were previously together and so it just for me has made me appreciate Michelle even more, everything that we already do appreciate about each other. So.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's very sweet. That would be the word I would describe it. Just very sweet to be with each other and appreciate each other and cherish each other so much.
Yeah, and
I love that.
For me, it's a completely different experience because Luke was sick most of our marriage. He wasn't able to do all these like active things that Joel and I get to do together, like running and hiking, and we did that hood to coast race together and just go places, and so it's an entirely different experience for me, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah, I mean, backpacking through the Alaskan frontier. You guys bungee jumped over. What was it? No, it feels like you guys are always on adventures. I love it so much. It's so awesome.
Yes, we did do some jumping from bridges this summer. That was fun.
We did.
Nice.
We did that, and we just decided we're going to Puerto Rico for our 1-year anniversary.
Awesome.
So we have a couple friend. They live there, and we basically just have to pay airfare, and then they're going to find a place for us in their same condo building. So that's exciting for our 1-year anniversary.
That's super cool. And what did Puerto Rico? Do they speak Spanish?
Yes, they speak Spanish, but in English as well.
And English.
Right. Well, I know that. Sorry, I know they obviously a lot of people speak English there, but so that's what I was going to ask you. So you speak Portuguese, right?
I do, but from
so
what I
you understand Spanish pretty well.
I do, but from what I understand, their Spanish has some I don't know what you call it, like Bohemian.
Our friend was telling us about that.
Oh, interesting.
That makes it even more complicated to listen to. So I'm looking forward to seeing if I'll be able to understand what they say, because I can get South American Spanish really well with my Portuguese. That's not a problem. Mexican Spanish is a little bit more slurred, so that's a little bit harder, but I can still make out a good bit of it if they talk slow. But from what I heard, Puerto Rican Spanish is even worse with the slurring. So it'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing if I can understand them.
As long as they know comida and baño, I think you're good.
Yeah,
what's comino?
Comida, food.
Where's the
food? I know Banya's bathroom. I got that one.
Where's the bathroom? Yeah.
As
long as you got that.
That's super cool. That should be exciting.
Yeah, more to that, but
say life is good. Like it is, it's hard for me. So he travels now with his new pilot
congratulations on your job, by the way.
Thank you. Yes,
that's super awesome. Everybody listening knows about it.
Yes, they do.
Thanks to you for making it so cool, even though it's not that cool.
Oh, it's way cool. I've always wanted to be a pilot.
It is cool.
Well, if I can do it, you can do it, and anybody can do it. So
that's really nice.
You just have to try.
Yeah. Well, what I was gonna say is now he's traveling, which I don't like, and I feel like it's kind of triggering because I'm sleeping alone again, and like that's what we do when we're widowed, and I don't like it, and so it kind of sometimes I have a little I don't know, it's hard to explain. Like I hate it. I'm always like, do not spend the night away. I hate it.
Well, and I wanted to ask.
A stay-at-home pilot. But I've
never
heard of a stay-at-home pilot.
That's what I wanted. Work from home.
Oh, that's great. A stay-at-home pilot. I like that. Oh, that's funny. So actually, Michelle, I've actually wanted to ask you this, and I've forgotten. I've only thought about it when we've not been recording.
Okay.
And Joel, I'm not trying to make you feel bad about your job. I've just been curious about this. Michelle, does it make you nervous that he's a pilot?
Yes.
Because, honestly, I know it's statistically extremely safe. It's not like you're like a race car driver or something.
Right.
But the connotation between flying, you know what I mean? A lot of people think flying equals dangerous. So
yeah, I that is a hard thing. But there's this thing called FlightAware where you can track any plane. So I'm usually tracking his plane. course.
Make sure I go where I say I'm going to go.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
it's to make sure you're
Where are you
still in the
flying to
air.
right now?
Yes, so I track him on there, and I just have to pray for safety. And he, like he said the other day, he was like, it's way safer than driving.
Yeah,
And,
like way safer.
way safer. And so I try, yes, but there are moments, because honestly, my biggest fear in the world is being widowed again. And so, but like I think I was sharing it at the retreat, like it's better. So I was better to love and lost and never loved at all. I believe it's better to have loved a second time and lose again than to not love at all. But yes, flying does, when he flies these jets and all this stuff, it does make me nervous. But I have to like release that and try not to stare at the whole time that the plane's flying. It tells you what altitude, how fast they're going. You can see where they are on a map. But
You're like, you're descending too fast.
Pull up.
You're like, I'm landing, Jill.
Yes,
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
So I do get nervous sometimes, but it's again just trusting God and not
Yeah,
living in
yeah.
fear. Because I can do
And
the
it is
same thing.
statistically really safe. And I know Joel knows that. I just wanted to ask because it's, you know what I mean? It's like people, it's kind of like somebody thinking, my husband's a police officer, I'm scared. Obviously, it's a dangerous job, but statistically across the board, like,
Right.
most people are safe in their job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As police officers or whatever. But anyway, so I totally random off
No,
topic.
that's
I
a
was
great
curious
question.
about that. So Joel, we are here to sort of ask you some questions about what it's like being married to a widow. So I have at the top of my list here, this is something I wanted to ask that I'm sure a lot of people would wonder this. I know you're a really secure man, as Michelle has shared a lot of things with us. But do you ever have moments of insecurities, knowing that Michelle is with you because she lost her husband?
That's a good question. I think at times we all, doubt ourselves a little bit, or sometimes feel insecure about who we are, and if we don't check, get ourselves under check, we can kind of go down a rabbit hole that can be very unhealthy for us all as men in this kind of a scenario, and I think in general, right? So I think you just have to say, what am I like? Where are my thoughts leading me? Is this really where I want to go? Then turn, do that turn and say, no, I'm not going to allow that to come into my life, and just work from there to get back to a healthy place. But I believe there are times in my life that I do struggle with that sometimes, is just being a little bit unsure of this.
Sure,
Well,
yeah. I mean,
I've
we're
never
all
seen
people.
that. Like, what do you mean by that? Like, I've never seen you be insecure about. Like,
Well,
I think
not
you're
it's-
talking specifically about Luke, my relationship.
No,
Is that
no.
What you mean?
Just any way he wants to answer it, but just go ahead. Sorry, Joel. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I don't think it comes out as insecure, but I think the thoughts are there sometimes of man, am I doing this right? Am I good enough? Am I smart enough to take care of this? Do I have the answers for this situation, or do I know how to act in this situation? So I think we all have,
I totally
I
relate
certainly
to that.
can relate, have that feeling at times, but I think it's like, where's our source? Where's our identity? And I think that is what is the true answer to our insecurities as men, even men in this situation. Is like, okay, where's my identity from? Is it what I do? Is it in who I trust in? And that's,
I love
for
that.
me, the Lord Jesus Christ.
Absolutely.
And so as I get closer to Him and bring Him these insecurities, I feel like He solves that for me. All I have to do
That's
is run
awesome.
to Him. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've actually, I know what you mean. There's a lot of times I feel things in my head that I don't vocalize, that I keep them to myself because I know I shouldn't be feeling that way. So, for example, Tina is a very, very faithful, loyal, loving woman. But there's been many times where I've gotten afraid of something, or because we have distance, I've had fears of like, well, gosh, is somebody like local going to come along and be more, you know what I mean? So I think we all have those thoughts that we kind of combat and fight and stuff like that. But I think you said it well, that, you know, with the part where you said we have to kind of turn and like redirect our thoughts. Yeah. And kind of, you know, turn to more positive thing, turn to what we know to be true. And not our fears. And I like that a lot. And absolutely, like, knowing your identity in Christ is makes you feel valuable, because those thoughts make you think you're invaluable, unvaluable. Right. What's the word I'm looking for? Unvaluable? Invaluable? Anyway, you know what I'm saying. Not valuable. I like where you were going with low value. There you go. I like where you were going with it.
I was going to say, kind of along that same line that I struggle with is like, he had an entire life before me. Like that just is so weird for me, but I also had an entire life before him. Mm-hmm. And it's just a strange concept when you marry someone and like, what if, you know, because Joel and I knew each other, both of us knew each other before we got married to other people. Right. And so sometimes it's like, well, what would have happened? But neither one of us would have had our wonderful kids. Our lives would be completely different. But it is that, like, I struggle with, like, he's had a whole life with someone else and a whole, like, that's really hard for me. So I think that's whether you're divorced or widowed. There's that whole, like, it's so different than getting married the first time. We're like, you're, you know, for us, you're young, you have kids. It's like a whole different season in life getting married in your 40s instead of your 20s. And like, I wish that we had that, oh, we're young and we're going to have kids and all of that stuff. But, you know, this season of our life, we decided we do not want to have any more kids. So it's a whole different thing than like when you, it's just so different. And so I guess it's more like I love what I had with Luke and my kids and all of that, but I grieve that we don't get to have that together.
I understand that. I've also struggled with sometimes, so Tina's husband was just an amazing man, like just such a godly man, always preaching the gospel to everybody everywhere he went. Just one of those guys that when he walked in the room, everybody stopped cussing, like, you know what I mean? Like, just had incredible influence. And so I've had a lot of insecurities. I don't know if I've shared this with Tina, but she's hearing it now.
Well, she's gonna hear it now.
I'm sure I have. I'm just kidding. But I just like to make the joke that she's listening. But do I stack up? You know what I mean? Like, can I, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how to word it exactly, but just kind of like those things cast doubt into my heart sometimes when I see or am reminded of what a great man he was. But I'm like, man, like, there's just this feeling sometimes of like, gosh, this poor girl, like, downgraded. You know what I mean? Like, but I do think and I'm just kind of saying that jokingly, but you know what I mean? Like, but just he was that awesome. So anyways, but I just try to make up for it by like loving her really well. You know, I'm like, plus I'm like a foot shorter, so sorry. You know.
No, I think what you said is really normal to think, you know, to feel, but it's like we are all, you know, made in God's image. We're all unique and special in our own way, and we all bring different things to the table. Like, as you can tell, one of my things is not public speaking or speaking, you know, right on the bat, you know, right off the bat, but we all just bring different strengths. And I think instead of, you know, anytime you start comparing, that's when you go down a rabbit hole the wrong way, you know. And so a lot of times, you know, just like, no, like, yeah, you know, Luke had great qualities with this, and this, and I that's awesome. I'm so happy for, you know, for the leadership that he brought to the family while he was here. Oops, sorry. And you know, my strengths are very different.
Yes.
And so I'm going to be myself and not try to compare, not try to be somebody I'm not.
I love that, Joel. That's awesome. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm going to say it right now. Like, I am way better at being short. Like, he just cannot stack up to me. Like, with that, like, good job, sorry, dude, but like, I'm going to be better at this forever. Like
That's awesome.
No, that's awesome. That's a really great point, and I can see that. I can see what you're saying, because like even if somebody's like way better at me than certain things, I'm not talking about this scenario anymore, just in general, that I probably have some skills that that person doesn't have, or some things that I'm good at, or ways that I love that are different or whatever. So that's cool. So I have a question for you. So
All right.
How is the dynamic as like co-parenting? Like how is that going? Like do you guys ever have like disagreements on parenting? Because you remember like, so you guys both had kids with your previous person, and you guys both learned how to be parents together with those people. So now that you're coming together, do you find there being any conflicts in like your parenting style?
Well, he doesn't. We learned this.
And I'm not asking you to like argue right here or anything.
No. We
The
learned.
answer is yes.
Well,
Okay.
we learned at a blended family conference before we got married that the person who is the parent should always do the parenting in front of them, and that everything else is behind closed doors. Like the kids never see the discussions we have about what to do in this instance. Like we'll talk about it. He supports me, but it should always be me with him supporting me from behind, but we don't talk about it. They never hear from, he never tells them what to do or not to do.
Right. I understand that. Now for me, it's obviously going to be different if Tina and I get to that point, because, my kids are little. Yeah. So like you know what I mean? So I could see that being, I could see that being different, but I totally understand what you're saying. I think that's a very good approach. So anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off if I did, but.
No, that's a very good question. And it's like we've said a few times where we just have different cultures.
That's a really good.
Different family cultures. That's what you used to say since the beginning.
How Michelle and Luke parent their kids, and how me and my ex parented our kids are very different. And so now we're trying to blend these parenting styles together, and instead of, it's easy to start butting heads about, no, I want to do it this way, I want to do this way. I think the key there is realizing that, hey, we both have strengths in different areas. Let's work together. Let's, as we mesh this ideas together, how can we do this the best possible way? And so instead of like say comparing, let's try to, you're really working on developing a new culture in the family. So that needs to be the focus.
Interesting.
How can we do this better? I learned this from my past. You learned that from your past. How can we do it even better now? But in our situation, we're talking all teenagers, and really at this point there isn't much that's going to change. And so there's a lot of aspects of how, for example, Michelle parents her kids. That's never going to change, and I just have to be okay with that. I can give some suggestions, we can talk about it, but ultimately she is going to parent her kids, and I'm going to parent my kids, and we're going to support each other in doing that.
That's really insightful. I like that.
We learned something maybe through a book or through that class about you can't care more than their actual parent cares. Like if the parent, like let's say my kid does something that doesn't bother me, like he can't care more about that than I do. Like that's my thing.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and that can be a challenge at times. Like in my house, in my old house, that's an offense, So no, immediately something in me is like, no, that can't happen, or he can't act, or she can't act that way. But then she's like, no, it's in my house, it's okay. So all of a sudden I gotta just like, okay, I guess I just have to change to be okay with that. And of course you can talk about it, say, hey, what if we did this, or how about this idea, or what, I've seen this happen if you don't take care of this situation. So we can talk about it, but ultimately she's going to do it. She's going to be the ultimate responsible person for her kids, and the ultimate. She gets the last word is what I was looking for.
Yeah.
On parenting our kids, and I do with mine. So.
And I would imagine that not only would it be hard for the kids to have somebody step in and try to be parent, but I would have to imagine that it would be hard for each of you if somebody was telling you what you're doing is wrong or not right or whatever. And so I think that's a very wise approach to, both of you be trying to yield to one another and what you've been doing that's been working with your own kids or whatever. I would imagine that would be that could be a difficult situation. It's such an interesting dynamic. And so okay, I had another question for you, Joel. So we all know that, and I know you have your own grief stuff too, but like, so just being relating to widows, how is it for you when Michelle's having like a tough grief day?
For me, I feel sad for her because like I don't want to see her suffer, and grief is a little bit of a suffering. And of course I want to do anything in my power to cheer her up, but I understand that you can't always cheer each other up, when people are grief. Sometimes you just got to feel it, like you guys say a lot, you got to feel it to heal. And so so that's one thing that I try to do very well, is just listen and not try to fix her grief or try to fix it intellectually with some kind of intellectual thoughts or something like that, and just let her feel the grief that she's feeling, give her space to do that, and support her in any way I can. And I'm not always very thoughtful, but just
you are.
as when those moments comes up, just know that it's not about me. It has nothing to do with me. It's her grief about her past. And so I think maybe some people might feel insecure. Some husbands might feel insecure when their partners are having grief, and so they want to shut it down. They don't want to hear about it, and that's just the worst thing you could possibly do to the person that you love. Is try to prevent them from feeling that, or try to squish that in any way, or try to minimize it. And so I just encourage anybody that's that has anybody has loss in their lives, you have to be sensitive to that, because we all have losses. We all have hard times that sometimes it's in waves, and sometimes it hits for no apparent reason that you don't know. And so I found the best way to handle that, even like some random times when Michelle had grief, is just ask questions until you understand. And maybe sometimes you don't understand, and so you just kind of just leave her, ask, what can I do to help? That's one thing I say a lot, is like, what can I do to help?
I love that.
And then she'll let me know, like, okay, you know what, right now I just want to cry, and that's okay. I'll be quiet. I'm here. I'm holding your hand. I don't know what to say, but sometimes just being quiet is the best thing.
It usually is. Usually I just say, I just want you to listen.
Yeah.
I just want you to listen. That's it. And I'm able to share those things. And he's very, very sensitive. And I love that he said it's not about me, because I think the horror stories I've heard with people dating again, it's usually because the other person is like really insecure because they don't realize it's not about them. They're feeling like, oh, she's crying over another man or whatever.
Well, remember we had a comment on one of our YouTube videos where some guy was saying like, I'll never date a widow again, which is weird that like he found our video because he wasn't. Yeah,
why are you looking for? That is true. I never thought about that. It was
weird. But then, and he just responded, like, he had this big old, like, you responded and said something to him, like, sorry you felt that way, not all widows are like that, or something. And then he responded and said, yeah, it's like I'm the one that's here now, and she's always still having feelings about it. I'm like, oh my gosh. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you encounter somebody like that, they are not going to be the right person for you.
Right.
They should not be telling you to take pictures off your wall.
Right.
You know, of course, like you mentioned, you know, obviously you don't want some like shrine built to them that makes you feel like you're not welcome in this home kind of thing.
Yeah.
But you know, if somebody comes in and they're like, why do you still have pictures of your wife on the wall? Or why do you still have pictures of your husband? Obviously, depending who we're talking to. And if they think that's weird, like that's, I don't know. For me, I always said, I was like, if somebody comes in and they don't like that I have pictures of my wife on the wall, like they're out. That's it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to explain myself. If you don't understand it, you're not the right person for me. But I love that where you come from, because, yeah, it does take, for me, I don't know how I would handle that if I wasn't widowed and didn't understand it myself. So that's why I've always given you praise. I don't know if you've ever heard those episodes, but like I give you a lot of praise for how well you've handled all this, Joel. And because I think the reason that I understand it so well for Tina is because I've been through the same thing. So it makes me incredibly understanding. And when she's having grief, I mean, there's a lot of times I cry with her.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I feel so much for her. I feel so much empathy and just feel so bad for her, because the thought that this sweet woman that I love so much is experiencing that same level of pain that I have felt, it just breaks my heart. And so I know you've had grief in your life, but not being widowed yourself, I think it's phenomenal that you have the outlook on it and the approach you do. And I just think that's awesome, and that, you know, that deserves to be, you know, a round of applause for Joel. Everybody listening, round of applause.
Well, to be completely honest, it's a round of applause to you guys, because a lot of what I learned about how to be a good husband to a widow is listen to the podcast. You know, like episodes of what not to say and stuff like that, and like what the dumb things people say, or something like that.
The last one, clueless things people say.
You know, so
you're like, okay, note to self, don't say that.
Exactly.
So a lot of what I've learned is from you guys. So good job.
Well, I'm way too humble to take credit.
So applause to you guys. Applause to you guys for
that's really cool.
Just informing the public on how to truly be there for widows and how to truly feel. And of course, none of us get it. Not even a widow gets other widows all the time. But you know, it's having that soft heart to grieve with those who grieve, and that's very scriptural too.
Yeah,
you know,
weep with those who weep. Yeah,
right. You know, you can celebrate with those who celebrate, and just being a good human person. You know, as far as just caring for people.
Yeah,
and I think that's what the gospel does in my heart. It makes me realize that, hey, other people are important. You know, they are made in the same image of God as I am. I need to treat them with all the respect and courteousness and kindness that I want to be treated with, you know. And so, you know, and then especially with the people you really care about, you're going to go above and beyond the board to truly be there for them and care for them, and do what you can to make people's lives around you better. Because they know you, and not worse. Even the store clerk, you know, at a store. Like, how can we all be kingdom minded? You know, that's one thing that I really think about a lot, is being kingdom minded in bringing God's kingdom as an ambassador to those around me. Yes, I have failures. Yes, I did not do things always right, but you know, I'm constantly seeking the Lord on how to be His ambassador to those around us. And I think that is what really is what I strive for, and that in my life is what makes it even easier to be a good husband, period.
Wow, that's awesome. I feel like you just articulated my heart.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, I feel all of that. I feel that same way. Like, it's just so important to be compassionate for others and to have empathy, and like that's how Jesus wants us to love is to just look at the world and try to, we're supposed to be the salt of the earth, and you know what I mean? So if, like you said, the story, like if you can make somebody smile and that their day gets better because you came through their line, like that's awesome. Yeah. So anyways, that was just really cool the way you explained all of that. Because I really like that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. One more thing about like how he's sensitive to things and how he's not insecure. So I had a really hard time on the would-be 20-year anniversary, because this year would have been 20 years with Luke, and that was just a big number. And we were actually getting on a plane going from Boston, coming home on that day, I believe. And he was like good with letting me like kind of cry about it and talk about it. And I was just like thinking how weird it was that if I knew 20 years from that day, I'd be like going on a plane with Joel from college, and like just it was just a weird moment. And then he let me post about my love for Luke and like didn't get jealous because he knows it's not about him. I believe a lot of men would be insecure about that. Like, it just was like another good day of seeing how he's very understanding. And it just made me, like, it makes me feel comfortable to tell him how I'm really feeling on the hard days. And so I just thought that was an awesome moment.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And that communication really brings unity, in our marriage. So it's, I appreciate
that's awesome.
Your good communication.
Thanks.
Oh my gosh, if you guys aren't watching on video, that was like the sweetest moment between them. That was awesome.
Sweet. You're sweet.
So okay, this is kind of a random question. Right. And this is for both of you. You can take your turns. Ready. So and I feel like I kind of asked you this question last time around, but I'm asking it differently now. So what did you learn / take away from your last marriage that has benefited you in this marriage?
This one you did not give us any warning about.
I know, this is the one. I wanted the organic response.
Yeah, organic response. Well, for me, with my previous marriage, I went through pretty much 8 years of marriage counseling trying to save it.
Wow.
And so that made me realize that I don't always see myself clearly. So I need to give permission, or not permission, but I need to be aware that the way I see myself and how I act in situations and how things I say at times might not be exactly how it's in my head. And so that makes you realize that, hey, you might have to apologize for different things. You might be more careful. You might have to be more humble because you don't see it all clearly. And maybe your perception isn't always the correct perception. So
I think that's good wisdom for like everybody listening. Like,
that
made me think, because I have done that a lot. I'm very much a self-critiquer. So anytime that I have a disagreement or anything, like I am always constantly like looking back, trying to see what I did wrong, how I could have done things differently, things like that. And there are many times. Sometimes I can do it in the moment. Sometimes I'll be right in the middle of an argument and I'll stop and be like, you know what? I'm totally wrong. And being as humble as I am, that isn't always the easiest thing. No, I'm just kidding. Right. I know. But that was just, but sometimes it takes me like a few days. And then I look back and go, wow, like, hey, like I didn't see this in the moment because I was clouded by this, or that. But you were right. I was wrong. But just the way you said that, I was like, that's awesome. That like the way that I see myself in my head is not always the way that I'm perceived by the other person or whatever. So I really like that. That I'm writing that down. Those are Joelisms right there.
Joelisms. Yeah, I'm trying to think about. I think a couple of things. I mean, I think the biggest thing that sticks out to me is like, if I could make it through. I mean, yes, Luke eventually passed away, but make it through a marriage that was not always the easiest. And going through sickness and like all this 16 and a half years that like I guess I learned about myself that I will persevere through anything. And that like it's just never an option, never was with Luke, and it never is with Joel, to ever, no matter what comes at us, to leave and to not be married. And so I guess I learned that I will be able to survive literally anything that could come. I don't know. I think that's the biggest thing I got it from it, and also to enjoy every moment because
Yes.
we don't know how long we have with people, and it just, yeah, that's the biggest lesson I got from my last marriage, is just to enjoy every single moment. You know, I had, you know, hearing so many widow stories this weekend who didn't have any warning. That's a whole other hardness. Like, we had time to know this was coming, but really, so we really did embrace every moment. Whereas if it was a sudden thing, you might not have been in that mindset. And so and Joel's told me before, he really loves my perspective on life, and like to really treasure every moment and make the most of every moment and laugh a lot. And,
you don't take things too seriously, which is really, really nice.
Yeah, to be able to just really live in the moment and thank God for all the things that we do have and look at the positive side. And, I think for so many years, because of Luke's sickness, I wasn't able to be who I really am. This is not his fault. This is just the weight of everything for like 16 years. And like I said, God told me at that retreat a long time ago, he'd restore the joy of my youth, and now it's back. And so without the heaviness of all the sickness for so many years, God has brought back my joy, and we have so much laughter. He's always laughing at me. Like, I don't know, he's like, you're so funny. I'm like, I'm not trying to be funny. Like, I'm literally not trying to be funny, and he thinks I'm funny. I don't know.
Hey, that's a gift.
Yeah.
That is a gift.
That is a gift. So anyways, just really like
That's awesome.
living every moment to the fullest, I think.
That's kind of what, because I was going to also answer it, because I'm the panelist here, so I control. I got the main microphone.
You are controlling it.
No, but that's kind of along the lines of what I was going to say. Is like my biggest thing that I learned that I apply now is that there are little things that we all pick apart in marriages and relationships that truly don't matter.
Right.
And I really don't want to, there's a best-selling book, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. If we could all learn to live by that, oh my gosh, our relationships, our world, everything around us would be so much better if we didn't sweat the small stuff, because I remember the feeling so well. All of the things that Lacey and I used to pray about that felt like such a big deal. We were praying, we were going to friends, asking them to pray for us. It was like it was our problems, it was our struggles, the things we were going through. And then she got cancer.
Right.
None of that mattered anymore.
Yep.
Just like that, overnight. I remember feeling, gosh, I wish that that's all we were praying about. Those little things that we felt like were such a big deal. Are now insignificant, and I can't even remember what they were because I have this cancer monster right in front of me that makes everything else feel so insignificant. And so that's one thing that I think all of us should be trying to take into our next relationships. Obviously for those of us already in relationships, and I'm also talking to you in the audience that are not yet in a relationship. Remember what it felt like to be in those beginning stages. Some of you are still there, and ask yourself, like, does this really matter?
Yeah.
Does this thing I'm like making a big deal out of like really matter? We all still do it. We're all human, but I try really hard to like, not sweat the small stuff, so to speak. So,
that's good.
That's really good. That's really good.
So in regards to, we've talked about your parenting together. So when it comes to having stepkids, how is that? Like, I mean, I'm just going to really like make it general. Like, how is that? Has it become more comfortable as time goes by? Is it hard? Is it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it certainly, we're just in the beginning stages of it. So it is certainly a different feeling and relationship than I've ever had with anybody in my entire life. I think Michelle can say the same thing. It's just a complete different type of relationship where, I'm pursuing it as just trying to be a friendly guy to Michelle's kids. They're great kids, and I'm here to be their friend. And so that's how I'm approaching it. I'm not demanding the respect. I'm trying to earn it. I'm not here to and I'm trying to do it at the pace that they want to do it at, because that's another thing. Like I was reading, I'm reading a good book, and there's a lot of good material out there for parenting, for step parenting, and there's a lot of pitfalls that parents can, or step parents or parents can do with their step kids. And so do some research, if that you're going to get into that, because there's lots of good podcasts out there that also help me a lot. Because when you're dating, it's all fun and games, and the kids are doing, everything might be doing well, but as soon as you get married and now this thing, it changes gears, and all of a sudden the kids are like, no, wait, this is for real,
Yeah.
And I've heard several guys say, wow, when we got married, our kids, like, things change gears. And I wasn't expecting that at all. I was like, oh, our kids are doing great. And we changed gears, like, it became a little bit tougher because now we're family. Before we weren't really family. Now we kind of are a new family. And so it's a learning season for me, and I'm doing my best to just be just to learn from everywhere I can. And I recently read, when a good, just over general, is like, the first thing is you have to be a good partner with your spouse. Like, to make a family blend well and to work well with the kids, you need to be a partner with your wife or your husband first. I'm sorry, I'm kind of cheating here. The other thing is you have to pursue the kids in their own way, in maybe their own love language, understand their love languages, and pursue that in a way that's comfortable to them. And it really is a one-way street for a long time, where you are giving and they're just taking.
Right.
And I mean, it's like that even biological kids, but with step kids, it's even more like that. You want to keep a pace with them. You don't want to push them. You don't want to lag behind. So you want to try to stay at their same pace. You have to have lots of patience. That is a huge one. And persistence. Even when you get turned down or shut down, you still lead with love. So those are 5 P's that this book talks about that I really, really am trying to apply in my life.
Building love together in blended families. So
yes, so
by
that's
Gary
the book
Chapman.
by Gary Chapman. So that book has been really good, and I'm not all the way through it, but have lots of notes, and highly recommend that book for new families as they take that step.
What a blessing that you're reading a book. That's awesome, man.
I know.
I love that.
I love that about him. He just wants to learn more and more. And there are a couple other things we learned. I think we first heard it from we went to this blended family like Bible study, and then I think it's in your book about a crock pot. So there's a crock pot where like all the people in the family are put into the crock pot, just like all the vegetables, all the things are done at different times. And so it might be good with one of them, but the other one's not ready. And so that's really important to know. There's
an inside outsider dynamic that you have to deal with. There's a loyalty dynamic that you have to deal with, so there's lots of emotions that the kids especially will have, like, I'm not here to replace their dad. I need to communicate that well. I need to show that to them, but they might feel, if they get close to me, they might feel like they're betraying their dad, or my kids might feel like they're betraying their mother that's still alive, in being friendly with Michelle. So there's a lot of dynamics on lots of different levels and everybody's different with the kids. So those perseverance and patience and leading with love and being okay being shut down and not getting your feelings hurt is a huge one. And so anyways,
that's awesome.
I recently recommended a friend that was going to get started blended family to just do as much research and arm yourself as much as possible, because it's a whole nother world that I had never experienced, and I'm so glad I'm taking the time. It's going to pay dividends, I know.
That's
investing
awesome.
in that information and realizing that you don't know you don't know everything, and so seek out help.
Yeah, and a
That's
couple
awesome.
other things. Do you remember the name of the podcast? We'll find
Life Blended, I think
Life
it is.
Blended, okay. So that's a good one. And then we also learned at this conference about there's a wall, and basically like you and your spouse have to like be together and things, and like you have to keep it good between you. You can't have like the kids trying to turn you against each other, just like biological kids can do. And that you two are behind the wall together and everything is unified together and you're on the same page. So that's another important thing.
Yeah. Because
I love that.
yeah, the kids won't have to be doing this if we didn't love each other.
Right. They didn't have a choice.
Right.
And so
That's
we
really good
so
point.
we have to be strong for them. And so as we're good, as we keep working at it, as we are loving each other, they're going to slowly blend.
Sure.
Because we're doing so well. Now, if we're not doing well, then they are not going to do well.
That makes sense.
That's what this book also talks a lot about. It's like, man, you have to be doing well. You have to figure things out. You have to put your partner first.
Yeah, and you have to be a united front.
For sure. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
great. And you mentioned, Joel, before we started recording, did you say you're taking grief recovery classes?
That's right.
Yes.
That is another good thing that I'm learning a lot about is, I have heard a lot about the grief, and how to handle grief, what to talk about and stuff. But now I'm actually in grief class and going through and graphing my losses through divorce, my losses of relationship with some of my kids. And so I'm learning a lot, and it's helping me be even grow in that area and learning how to be there even more for Michelle.
Wow, that's
been a
awesome,
neat,
man.
neat experience, neat learning experience.
Because it really, the first little bit of it is all about learning about grief. Like there's so much education on grief, about there's not stages, there's waves and things that people say that are intellectually true but not emotionally helpful.
Right.
And so he's able to learn all these things for himself and to be able to help me.
I would highly recommend this class to anybody that's any
kind of loss.
I'd recommend this class to anybody because it deals with all losses, right? You don't have to have lost a spouse to have grief.
Right.
You have grief over even moves, even friends or people that passed away or people that you had to leave or just hard relationships.
Yeah.
Any grief is grief. Any loss is grief. And so this book is in this class that Michelle teaches is teaching me how to deal with my own grief in my own loss, but also it's making me even more sensitive to her loss. And so I would highly recommend it to anybody that's especially dating or going to marry a widow.
That's
and there
beautiful.
is a link in the bio if you want to set up a call to learn more. Just had to say that. And
Nice
there are
plug.
scholarships available for widows.
Yeah.
So I just had to say those two things.
No, yeah, that's awesome.
That's a good plug. I didn't even think about that.
That was good. No, and it is incredibly valuable, and so that should be something that people do pursue. Grief recovery classes, and Michelle does offer those.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great segue into that. But so I'm going to challenge you guys on something again on the spot. Okay. So I want you guys to go back and forth 3 times saying something you love about each other.
I feel like we're in counseling right now. Have you ever been a counselor? Because you're doing a really good job.
Yeah.
No, I'm just good at everything I do.
About you.
Oh my gosh.
Especially
Did you
being
hear him?
humble.
He said I'm good at everything. This is actually something we learned we've talked about this thing we went to called Heart Change. And we learned this to say one thing I love and appreciate about you is, and then you do this. So I'll go first.
Okay.
I was actually just going to say this. One thing I love and appreciate about you is how you are so into like self-help and like being the best that you can be so that you can be the best husband that you can be, like reading these books and listening to the podcasts, and like you're so emotionally in tune. Most husbands are not. Most men are not. So I really appreciate that about you.
That's awesome.
Thank you. Let's see. One thing I love and appreciate about you is that you are your take on your outlook on the world is so refreshing.
That's
and
awesome.
I just love how you just take your perspective on the world. That's it. I just love seeing you taking your surroundings and how you're so encouraging as well.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
One thing I love, and this is so weird on air, but okay.
Sorry, you don't have. You can do it any way you want. Sorry.
Okay, one thing I love and appreciate about you is how you support me in all of my endeavors with widow ministry. I know there's men who wouldn't be secure enough to do that, and how your ministry is supporting my ministry. Like, that's your ministry in life, is to support me and to help me with what I'm doing. Like, he gave me so many ideas for the retreats, and like he's always helping me with ideas for what to do and all of it. So I appreciate that about you. Boom.
Boom.
You should say something to me.
See. Yes,
We
I
have to do
will.
three.
I will. 3.
He said 3. Our
Sorry, you
counselor
can
said
do
3.
2. I'm sorry. I don't know.
I like 3.
Let's
I've never done this. I have a point to it, but I just wanted to.
Let's stop at 2 because you can't think of 3. What?
I
love how you never get upset with me. No.
Good one.
Okay, fine. Just do 2. But I have
Let's
another
see.
one.
I love and appreciate. See, that's the thing. I need to think about these things.
You can't just say it.
I can, but like
He's making them
I want to think of a
meaningful.
good one. You know, like
Yeah.
there's many little ones, but I'm like what's a truly meaningful one? And sometimes I have to think, before I can actually say something good. But there's
I
so
have to
many.
think before I can say something good. That doesn't sound nice.
No, so there's many things that I love and appreciate about you. But let's see, I love and appreciate how you love me so well. Like I am so well loved. It just I'm so blessed. So
That's awesome.
Okay, do we go for round 3? Oh, you don't have to say one, but I have to
Okay.
say another one. So I win in this one because you're only doing 2. But I love how
It's not a competition.
and that's the weird
who
thing.
is
Like,
most appreciative of each other?
I love how
is so-
competitive you are.
He is. He's so competitive. Like no matter what, it's like I'm better than you, or you're not better than me. I'm,
well,
I'm not trying to compete
I always
with
go,
you.
why do you have to be better than me? And he's like, I'm not trying. Like, better at rollerblading when we do that, and better at this, and better at running, and better at that. I'm like, but he's like, not competitive, but I am. But the good thing I wanted to say, and then we'll get to Mark's point,
Yes.
is that I love how it was almost exactly what you said, but how well you love me. I feel so adored, which is I absolutely love to know that I'm adored and cherished, and how you put it goes God, me, and then our kids. We both have our kids, and that it's you have your priorities in the right order, and you'll drop something else to put me as a priority. What are your priorities? And if you have to drop something else in order to, fulfill a commitment with me or whatever, you'll do that. And I love being adored. So love you.
That's awesome. So, the reason why I was asking you guys these questions, and I'm really sorry that I said 3. I didn't mean to throw you on the spot or whatever.
I thought 3
I've never done this before, but I wanted the audience to see something, is that we've all been through these tremendous losses, even the 3 of us sitting here in our very different ways. But God can restore your heart. these are the feelings of people who have gone through great loss, that they now, and I'm talking to the audience now, that they have now come to this place where they have a lot of gratitude, they have a lot of love in their hearts, and appreciation for life. And so I want all of you listening to know that there is hope out there for you. That Michelle was widowed. Joel has gone through a lot of pain and grief. I'm widowed, and I am extremely happy with Tina. And there was a point in my life where I thought I would never, ever be happy again.
True.
And I just want you all to see that, like, you can find happiness again, and find your person. And so anyway, so I just kind of wanted to have you guys show, and I understand where you're coming from, Joel, just to, like, I have to, stand up for you here, that, like, it is hard sometimes to think of things on the spot. But also you really want to say the right thing in those situations. You want to think of, like, exactly what it is you're thinking. And I know you have, a laundry list a mile long. And so I just wanted to show that example to people. That was kind of the point of it, was just to say, like, look, you all have listened. A lot of you have listened to this podcast since the beginning. Yeah. This is not where Michelle and I were.
No.
But look at where she is now. She's now happily married again, like truly happily married again. And it's so beautiful what God can do in our hearts. So just hang on to your faith and hang on to what you know to be true, is that God is good and he is always working all things together for our good. Even when we don't feel it, even when we don't know exactly how things are going to pan out, he is always working things together for our good. So anyways, did you guys have anything else you wanted to add on?
I just wanted to say that I hope this podcast, my vision for this is that it inspires people to wait for a man like Joel, or, like someone
or Mark.
Yes.
Way to go, Tina.
I was like, I'm definitely taken.
Yes. Yes. No, he said like.
Oh, I missed that. Sorry, it keeps cutting out. I'm sorry, it keeps, like, cutting out.
Yeah, so
I'm
he
only
said
catching half
like.
of it sometimes.
Okay, the point is I'm talking about, like, someone who gets it, who understands, and is not going to be jealous of your late spouse, and if they are, run. So that's kind of my vision, like, getting to actually hear, and they hear it from you all the time, so they know it, but to hear from someone else too, who knows how to treat a widow. And respect them. So that's kind of my goal with this.
I like that. And I think that's great. And I really think people should take that away from this. That yes, like you have to have somebody that's understanding. You can't have somebody that's going to be shutting down your grief, that's going to be making you feel bad about grieving your late spouse. Like, that is so wrong. No matter how nice they are in every other area, that has to be an absolute, that they are understanding that, you've been through a lot and that you still love your spouse, that you don't stop loving them once they die. And so, I think that's great.
Yes. Do you want to pray for us today, or did you have anything else to say, Joel?
No, you guys are doing a great job, so keep it up.
Thanks.
That's awesome. Thanks, Joel. Lord, I just thank you so much for all the wonderful things that you've done in our lives and in our hearts, that you're constantly molding us and shaping us to be better men and women, more equipped to serve your kingdom. I thank you so much, Lord, for the beautiful restoration you have created in this union that's before us. With Joel and Michelle, and I just like to pray, Lord, that you, I'm just going to say, mix their families together, that you would continue softening hearts and providing wisdom, so that they can form the exact family that they're supposed to be in every way. And I just pray, Lord, that you guide Joel in his leadership role, and that you guide Michelle, and that you just bring a lot of glory to your kingdom through this marriage. And I thank you so much for it. And I just pray for anybody listening, Lord, that you would bring them the right person in their time, and of course in your time. But if that's what they want, I pray that you would bring that person to them at the right time and when they're ready. anyways, just thank you so much, Lord, for this ministry. Such a blessing to hear all the incredible ways that you have used us to help people. And I thank you for that. It's such an honor. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
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 So if you liked this podcast, give it a little bing, 5 stars, Apple Podcast.
I gotta get a sound effect. I want a bell.
I know, we should. Bing!
I'm gonna put a bell.
Yeah, make sure that you subscribe so you never miss an episode. Speaking of episodes, next week is episode 100. Like, I can't even believe it. It's kind of crazy. What started out as a little like, hey, let's do a podcast. We are 100 episodes in as of next week, and we are doing a live episode. It'll be live through Facebook. The details will be coming soon. And that is going to be, I don't know the date. I don't have it in front of me. Tuesday. What, can you look up what Tuesday is next week?
Yes, I think it's the 7th.
Okay, let's just look. I can pull up my... It is Wait. Yeah, Tuesday the 7th at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. We will be live. If you have questions, be ready to put them in the chat. We're just going to be going over frequently asked questions and just having fun being live.
Yay!
Yay! I don't think that's Mark's favorite, but you know.
Y'all might not know this listening to me. That makes me really nervous, but that's okay.
It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. So I'm super excited. It's kind of like a party, like a celebration. We're celebrating with our listeners that we are here at episode 100. It's totally God, like, blessing this ministry, and it's been amazing. And speaking of ministries, if you've been blessed by this and you want to give back, we are a division of Widow Goals, which is what provided our retreat, and we do grief recovery scholarships as well as funding the podcast. So if you'd like to give back, there's a link below. And if you want to be a guest, we also have a form below that you can fill out to apply to be a guest. So I think I got it. Oh, find us on Facebook, Widowed Too Soon, M. That's actually the official name on Facebook, and all the places. You know, you can email us widowedtoosoon@widowgoals.org. Okay, I think we covered it.
Yes,
all.
And I just want to say, Joel, thank you so much for being a guest. That was awesome, and it was really cool seeing you and getting to chat with you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was great to be halved.
That was great. I'm stealing that.
Oh,
another Joelism.
So he kind of has cheesy jokes sometimes, but you think they're funny, so that's great.
I'm a cheesy dad joke kind of guy.
It's true.
So
You both are.
They make me cry. Yeah.
Like, we could have a whole episode, you two just doing bad dad jokes, but we'd probably lose a lot of listeners. So, anyway.
Maybe. I mean, if my singing hasn't scared them off.
That's true.
I think they can handle a couple dad jokes.
Yeah.
Yes. All right.
All right.
Well,
Anyways.
thanks for being here, listeners. We'll see you next
Thank you.
time. Bye.
God bless.